Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are going to wrap up Mucedorus today, which is a little bit weird because as I was going through, I was looking at a couple different versions of this, and there's an additional monologue that comedy has in the epilogue, but today we're going to hear from Envy. But since we started with this version that didn't have that one, then we're not going to do that one. But I would encourage you to take a look at different versions of things. I mean, we've run into this before where one version has an extra scene or is missing some lines or all those sorts of things. And that's sort of the fun of really old publishing, was different versions didn't all match and things could be completely different. They could be different characters, different plot lines, all sorts of weirdness. But anyway, getting back to the story, we're on Mucedorus and things are pretty much wrapped up. Mucedorus revealed himself to be the shepherd, which made Amandine happy, and then he was like, but you're gonna live the shepherd's life, and she's like, that's okay, and he's like, haha, good answer, because I'm actually a prince. And then Sagasto's like, okay, then I don't need Amandine anymore, she can be yours because you're also of high birth. And Mucedorus had killed Bremo, so they're safe. They can return to court. Nobody's looking for them anymore. They're like, let's go and tell the people at court what has happened. So Act 1, Scene 14 is at court, and we are with Amandine's father and his advisors, and he's like, I'm so sad that my daughter's not here. I should just kill myself because there's nothing else to live for because my daughter's not here. But then Mouse comes running in like, I have some news, I have some news, I have some really great news. And they're like, how good is your news? And he's like, well, what are you going to give me for it? And he's like, well, it depends what it is. So they go back and forth a little bit on what Mouse is going to get for his news, and they resolve with Mouse will never have to want for anything else in his life. He'll be made a gentleman, he'll get really fine clothes, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, that's a good response because, hey, I found your daughter, she's coming in now. So Sagasto and Mucedorus and Amandine come in, and the king is very happy to see them, happy to see his daughter. There's like apologies all around, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to be marrying Mucedorus. And he's like, but that's a shepherd. How dare you? You're promised to Sagasto. And Mucedorus is like, haha, I'm not a shepherd. I'm actually a prince. You know, my dad is a king, my mom is a queen, so everything's cool. And Amandine's father, the king, is like, you know, that's all well and good, but she was supposed to marry Sagasto. Sagasto's like, no, that's totally fine. The two of them can get married. I'll remove myself from this. So then they're all like, okay, everything is fine and fun and resolved. At which point, Mucedorus's father, the king, comes in, and in the stage directions it says he just runs over and hugs his son, and then they're like, oh great, your dad's here too, let's everybody get everything ready for the wedding tomorrow. And Mucedorus's father, the king, is like, yes, everything is good now. And that's the end of Act 1, Scene 14. So all of that is wrapped up. The lovers get to be together, nobody's mad at anybody anymore, and the cannibal is dead. So we then have an epilogue where comedy and envy come back out, which I really appreciate, because especially in like The Merry Devil of Edmonton, where we started out with the whole thing of, you know, him bartering for 7 more years to stay on Earth before his soul is taken away, but then that isn't actually resolved at the end. I like it that this actually gets resolved. Comedy and envy get to come back out at the end of the play, and comedy is like, ha 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 ha, everything worked out just fine. And envy is like, yeah, no, it was a rough road to get there, and I'm not giving up yet, and things aren't always going to be happy, and they snipe at each other back and forth a little while, and comedy is like, just give it a rest. Like, things are happy, people are happy, it was a fun little play that we did. Why do you always have to make such a big deal out of everything? And envy is like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna conjure up a cannibal and I'm gonna make him a poet. And comedy is like, why? And envy says, this scrambling raven with his needy beard will I whet on to write a comedy, wherein shall be composed dark sentences, pleasing to factious brains, and every otherwhere place me a jest, whose high abuse shall more torment than blows. Then I, myself, quicker than lightning, will fly me to a puissant magistrate, and waiting with a trencher at his back, in midst of jollity rehearse those Gauls, with some additions so lately vented in your theatre. He upon this cannot but make complaint to your great danger, or at least restraint. So Envy is saying that he's going to undo comedy from within. He's going to have this cannibal write a comedic play that's full of a bunch of really dark stuff. And then while people are watching the play, he's going to run around and beat them up so that everybody thinks that comedies are a bad thing. And then they will blame comedy and never do comedy anymore. And comedy is like, you know what? The sun is coming up. You know, your time is up. You know, this is done. So let's greet the morning. This whole thing is over. And Envy is like, the sun, and falls over. And comedy is like, welcome to a brand new day. We hope that this play was fine. And Envy is like, yeah, I hope everything was, yeah. And that's the end of Mucedorus in general. So I personally really enjoyed Mucedorus. It's fun, it's wacky, it can be farcical. There's stuff that seems to come out of nowhere. It's one of those plays where you can take the stakes from here and shoot them up to there to emphasize the comedy of it, even though in some places it's not necessarily funny. I mean, they get attacked by a bear and there's all these death threats and there's a cannibal who wants to eat people, and just there's so much stuff in this play. It's fun to try to explore, and I would love to see a production of it. I don't know if I would have the comedy Envy framing on it, even though I do like that it bookends the play and that bit gets to be fully wrapped up. It does feel a little bit like just sort of a writing mechanism, a writing cheat, whatever, sort of like telling everything completely in flashback. So you already know how it's going to end. It just feels a little bit meh. Do I think that this play was written by Shakespeare? Honestly, I don't know. I would have to do more word analysis and all that sort of thing. I would say that I think that if he wrote it, it probably was relatively early in his career, just based on the characters, based on pulling out comedy and envy as characters in the first place, and also based on it's fairly simple to read. It's not very complex poetry that makes up a lot of the monologues. It's just very sort of straightforward. This is what's happening. These are the conversations that were happening. So yeah, if he did write it, I would guess that it was early in his career, but most experts who've actually studied the language and the word usage and all of those sorts of things say that he probably didn't. But I can certainly see somebody slapping his name on this and trying to pawn it off as one of his, which is what they did. And that's why we're covering it here in Shakesyear, because it's part of the Apocrypha. So anyway, that's Mucedorus. I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Please leave comments in the comment section below. And tomorrow is new play day. We get to start in on The Puritan. So that'll be fun. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow for a new play. Mwah.